Today's podcast is about confidence, and that confidence is built, not given. There are so many people that have a problem with confidence. And let's be really clear. Confidence is not something that you're ever born with. This is something that you build, right? It isn't something you wait for. You create it through action. And I'll tell you, I was working with a great 20-something-year-old this morning doing coaching. And we were talking about, how successful she was and how she's looking at changing her job. And one of the things that is so common we talked about was this idea of confidence. And do people have the confidence to be able to take a leap, right? To go from where you are safe and comfortable into an area where you know that you may be happier, but it's scary, all right? And how do we build that confidence? How do we build this idea of being able to trust yourself? Because to me, confidence is self-trust. And I want to repeat that. Confidence is self-trust. It's a firm belief in your ability to think, to feel, and to act in ways that serve you and those that you lead. And whether you are a leader or not, self-confidence, self-trust is this incredibly important thing to be able to go through life and have less stress, less anxiety, right? Because you trust yourself, but also to come across to other people in a way that helps them to trust you. And that to me is just a powerful, powerful thing. People who are confident, who are genuinely confident, they don't have more ability than other people. They don't have different personality traits necessarily than other people. Most people that have built confidence have built it because of experience. They built it by going through heck at times and coming out the other side. Confidence is something that's built by doing the work and doing the work and doing the work. And as you look back and realize how far you've come, you become more confident, or at least you should. And that's an interesting thing that I will talk to a lot of people about. If I'm working with you as a coach, or if you're in my leadership program, and you have, gone through and been very successful in high school. You were a star athlete in high school, had great grades, went through college, did really well in your major in college, and had great friendships. You also made sure to, have a job while you were doing all the classes, and you did all these things that show, wow, there's a lot of people who don't do all those things and who aren't as successful as you are, but you don't think that you are as successful as you could be or should be, or that other people are, that are in your same strata are. And it's just not true. One of the things I think that is interesting is that as we all look at our lives and how we have progressed our lives through time, we have built a repertoire of proof. All right. We have actually been able to show that we are successful, that we can count on ourselves and other people can count on us to do what we say that we're going to do. And that builds confidence. It is interesting that confidence to me starts by keeping small promises to yourself. Right? Confidence starts with this idea of if you keep the small promises to yourself, if you build this self-trust, what you do is you earn that. And I hope if you're good enough, you recognize your gains along the way. There's a great book that I love called The Gap and the Gain. You ever get a chance, read this book. Because what this book talks about is that so many people, especially if you're a perfectionist, you're always looking at your successes when I reached there. And when you reach there, you're like, oh, well, then I'm going to do this. And you're always looking out ahead for success. And you will be happy when this happens. You'll be successful when that happens. And the book talks about that those people are gap thinkers. Those people have been taught to always look for the next thing. And I have no problem with being successful. I have no problem with saying, hey, once I've reached goal A, I'm going to go reach goal B. That's a wonderful thing. But you have to make sure that you look back, and say, the gain, how far I've come, is also great. You have to be able to look back and say, wow, you know what? I did some really hard things there. And that's pretty darn good. I did some things that most people can't do. And as you do that, you should build self-trust. All right? You should build this idea of recognition in yourself. And for me, I think that a lot of it is I try to do it through discipline. All right? The more disciplined that I am in my life, right? The more that I do the things that I know I'm supposed to do, all right? The more that I live the life that I know I'm supposed to live. You know, whether that is taking full blast cold showers in the morning, which are awful. It's so hard to get up and take a shower in the morning that's cold, all right? But you do it anyways because it's part of discipline. You know, whether it's the fact that I do my set of exercises every morning. And what is important is that by doing the consistent things, by being disciplined for myself in my life, I build this trust in myself that I will do things that are hard. Because most people won't. When it gets hard, most people stop. You know, it's like, you know, again, when I was training for ultra marathons, whatever, you know, you hit 10 miles and you're tired. You hit 15 miles and you're still tired. you hit 20 miles, you're even more tired, you know, and it takes so much belief, so much courage to get to 40 miles and 50 miles and 60 miles and 70 miles. And if you have built this sense of discipline into your life, then you trust yourself. You believe in yourself. You have this exact example of courage, right? Because courage comes before confidence, right? Courage is this idea that you act even when it's uncomfortable. And what's really neat is that when you do that, when you build this sense of discipline, of courage, of doing things even when you don't want to, right? That builds belief. And it's powerful, all right? There's a really cool theory I'm not going to get this guy's name exactly correct, but I think it's Alex Stojkovic. And his theory says that confidence is at the center of performance. And I believe in that deeply. You know, he has this formula. It's hilarious. The formula is performance equals skill times will times confidence. All right? Performance equals skill times will times confidence. And if you have skill, which anyone can develop, and if you have will, which anyone can have, and you multiply those two with self-trust, right? With confidence, it will allow you to perform way, way more than most other people. All right. So if you're willing to work hard, right? If you're willing to believe in yourself, and if you're willing to trust yourself, that's where success comes from. I think that it's an interesting thing. I'll go back to running again. When I was in high school, I was invited to be a part of something called the Golden Mile. You know, so I was on my high school team. I was the top 2 miler and had really good times with the mile as well. And the people who did the invite said that, you know, they invited me over this other person to actually run in this invitation only mile. And what's interesting, it was in front of 100,000 people. I mean, it was incredible. I mean, 100,000 people, because it was right before a parade. And what was interesting is that, again, I had been training much more for the 2 mile than the 1 mile beforehand. So it was after school was done. It was during the summer. And I took 6 weeks of training 100% on my own. And I went to the track 5 times a week. and I did all of these interval training, along with some distance stuff. And the whole idea was that I had some people who asked me, hey, you want me to go run with you and do some stuff with you? And I said, no. I wanted this to be something where it was all on me, that it was all on me taking the discipline, the dedication, the time, the energy, the effort to show myself that I could hit these times on the track that would translate into a faster mile than I'd ever run. And these days it isn't all that impressive, but I ran like a 4:26 mile, and I carved 14 seconds off of my best time. And it is something where if you develop this idea of belief, of trust, of dedication, then you can build this sense of, I can do anything. And my hope for you is that you will understand that confidence is not some rare thing. Confidence is something that you develop, but it starts in here, right? Confidence starts with you saying, I'm going to show myself through discipline that I can do consistent things. I didn't say hard things, consistent things. Then what's cool, you add difficult things to your consistency. And as you add the difficulty to the consistency, now you teach yourself, you train your brain that you can do many things. And if you're willing to take the time to do the work, you will see that you can perform, right? Like Alex said, your performance is based off of this formula. And I believe that if you are willing to work on yourself, if you're willing to dedicate the time, the energy on you, then you can build this self-trust that leads to confidence. And I'll tell you, confidence is attractive. People who are confident, other people are just attracted to. They're magnetic. And it's because so many other people wish that they were confident. They just don't know that anyone can achieve that. It just takes work. I hope this helps. If you ever need help with coaching, if you ever want to go through a leadership program, I've got great options for you. Just look at our website and then let me know if I can help. Take care.